Hey, what's up, adventurers? Welcome back to another episode of the Global Adventures, where we explore the most amazing and mysterious places on Earth. Today, we're going to talk about why nobody lives in these 7 empty states of USA. Yes, you heard me right. There are 7 states in the USA that have almost no population, no economy, no infrastructure, and no reason to exist. They are basically ghost states, abandoned by the federal government and forgotten by the rest of the country. Why are they like this? What happened to them? And what secrets do they hide? Let's find out. But before we dive into the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future uploads. Make sure you stick around until the end, because we have a bonus place for you. That is not a state, but a federal district. That is also one of the most empty and mysterious places in the country. You don't want to miss it. Let's get started. Number 7. Wyoming. Wyoming is the least populated state in the USA, with only about 580,000 people living there. That's less than the city of Las Vegas. Wyoming is also the second least densely populated state, with only 5.8 people per square mile. That means you could drive for hours without seeing another human being. Wyoming is mostly covered by mountains, plains, and forests, and has a harsh climate with cold winters and hot summers. The main industries are mining, agriculture, and tourism, but they are not enough to sustain a vibrant economy. Wyoming is also one of the most conservative states in the country, with a strong preference for small government and individual rights. Wyoming has been nicknamed the Equality State because it was the first state to grant women the right to vote in 1869. However, it also has a history of racism, violence, and discrimination, especially against Native Americans and LGBTQ+ people. Wyoming is the home of the Yellowstone National Park, the first national park in the world, and a popular destination for nature lovers. But it is also the site of a massive supervolcano that could erupt at any moment and wipe out most of the life on the continent. Wyoming is a state of contrasts, beauty and danger, but also a state of isolation, boredom, and decline. Number 6. Vermont. Vermont is the second least populated state in the USA, with only about 620,000 people living there. That's less than the city of Boston. Vermont is also the 6th smallest state by area, and the second most densely forested state, with 75% of its land covered by trees. Vermont has a mild climate, with 4 distinct seasons, and is known for its scenic landscapes, maple syrup, cheese, and ice cream. Vermont is also one of the most progressive states in the country, with a strong tradition of social activism, environmentalism, and democracy. Vermont was the first state to abolish slavery in 1777, and the first state to legalize same-sex marriage in 2009. Vermont is also the only state that has never elected a Republican to the U.S. Senate, and the only state that has a socialist senator, Bernie Sanders. Vermont is the home of Ben & Jerry's, the famous ice cream company, and a magnet for hippies, artists, and intellectuals. But it is also the home of a secret cult called the Northeast Kingdom Community Church that practices polygamy, child abuse, and racism, and has been accused of murder, kidnapping, and fraud. Vermont is a state of peace, freedom, and culture, but also a state of secrecy, corruption, and extremism. Number 5. Alaska. Alaska is the largest state in the USA by area, but the 3rd least populated state, with only about 730,000 people living there. That's less than the city of San Francisco. Alaska is also the most sparsely populated state, with only 1.3 people per square mile. That means you could fit 19 Alaskas into one Texas and still have room left over. Alaska is mostly covered by mountains, glaciers, and tundra, and has a subarctic climate with long, dark, and cold winters and short, bright, and cool summers. The main industries are oil, gas, fishing, and tourism, but they are subject to fluctuations and regulations. Alaska is also one of the most diverse states in the country, with a large Native American, Asian, and Pacific Islander population and a rich cultural heritage. Alaska has been nicknamed the Last Frontier because it was the last state to join the Union in 1959, and because it still retains a wild and adventurous spirit. Alaska is the home of the Denali National Park, the highest mountain in North America, and a paradise for wildlife enthusiasts. But it is also the home of a mysterious phenomenon called the Alaska Triangle that is said to cause thousands of disappearances, UFO sightings, and paranormal events. Alaska is a state of size, beauty, and diversity, but also a state of isolation, danger, and mystery. Number 4, North Dakota. North Dakota is the fourth least populated state in the USA, with only about 760,000 people living there. That's less than the city of Seattle. North Dakota is also the fourth least densely populated state, with only 11.7 people per square mile. That means you could fit 7 North Dakotas into 1 New York and still have room left over. North Dakota is mostly covered by plains, hills, and lakes, and has a continental climate with hot summers and cold winters. The main industries are agriculture, energy, and manufacturing, but they are dependent on global markets and prices. North Dakota is also one of the most homogeneous states in the country, with a predominantly white, Christian, and Republican population, and a low level of immigration and diversity. North Dakota has been nicknamed the Peace Garden State because it hosts a botanical garden that symbolizes the friendship between the USA and Canada. North Dakota is also the home of the Fargo Air Museum, the largest collection of historic aircraft in the Midwest, and a tribute to the aviation history of the state. But it is also the home of a secret underground base, called the Stanley R. Mickelson Safeguard Complex, that was built to defend the country from a nuclear attack, and that is now abandoned and haunted. North Dakota is a state of simplicity, stability, and patriotism, but also a state of monotony, vulnerability, and obscurity. Number 3, South Dakota. South Dakota is the fifth least populated state in the USA, with only about 880,000 people living there. That's less than the city of San Jose. South Dakota is also the fifth least densely populated state, with only 11.8 people per square mile. That means you could fit 6 South Dakotas into 1 Florida, and still have room left over. South Dakota is mostly covered by plains, hills, and rivers, and has a continental climate, with hot summers and cold winters. The main industries are agriculture, tourism, and finance, but they are not very profitable or competitive. South Dakota is also one of the most divided states in the country, with a large Native American population that lives in poverty and faces discrimination, and a white population that lives in prosperity and enjoys privilege. South Dakota has been nicknamed the Mount Rushmore State because it hosts the famous sculpture of 4 U.S. presidents carved into the Black Hills, a sacred land for the Lakota people. South Dakota is also the home of the Badlands National Park, a stunning landscape of eroded rock formations, fossils, and wildlife. But it is also the home of a sinister conspiracy called the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally that is said to be a cover for a secret gathering of neo-Nazis, bikers, and outlaws that plot to overthrow the government and start a civil war. South Dakota is a state of contrast, history, and culture, but also a state of conflict, injustice, and rebellion. Number 2, Delaware. Delaware is the 6th least populated state in the USA, with only about 970,000 people living there. That's less than the city of San Diego. Delaware is also the 2nd smallest state by area, and the 6th most densely populated state, with 504.3 people per square mile. That means you could fit 49 Delawares into 1 California, and still have room left over. Delaware is mostly covered by flatlands, marshes, and beaches, and has a humid subtropical climate, with mild winters and hot summers. The main industries are finance, pharmaceuticals, and agriculture, but they are overshadowed by the neighboring states of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Delaware is also one of the most influential states in the country because it was the first state to ratify the U.S. Constitution in 1787, and because it hosts more than half of the Fortune 500 companies due to its favorable tax laws and corporate governance. Delaware has been nicknamed the first state because of its historical significance, and the Diamond State because of its small size and high value. Delaware is also the home of the Winterthur Museum, the largest collection of American decorative arts in the world, and a showcase of the state's rich cultural heritage. But it is also the home of a dark secret called the DuPont family that is said to be a powerful and corrupt dynasty that controls the state's politics, economy, and media, and that is involved in various scandals, crimes, and cover-ups. Delaware is a state of prestige, wealth, and influence, but also a state of secrecy, greed, and corruption. Number 1, Montana. Montana is the 7th least populated state in the USA, with only about 1 million people living there. That's less than the city of San Antonio. Montana is also the 4th largest state by area, and the 3rd least densely populated state, with only 7.1 people per square mile. That means you could fit 147 Montanas into one Alaska, and still have room left over. Montana is mostly covered by mountains, valleys, and prairies, and has a varied climate with warm summers and cold winters. The main industries are agriculture, mining, and tourism, but they are not very developed or diversified. Montana is also one of the most independent states in the country, with a strong sense of identity, pride, and freedom. Montana has been nicknamed the Big Sky Country because of its vast and clear skies, and the Treasure State because of its abundant natural resources. Montana is also the home of the Glacier National Park, one of the most beautiful and pristine places in the world, and a haven for hikers, campers, and wildlife watchers. But it is also the home of a deadly threat called the Montana Militia, that is said to be a violent and extremist group that trains and arms its members, and that plans to overthrow the government and establish a new order. Montana is a state of space, nature, and liberty, but also a state of isolation, hostility, and anarchy. Bonus: Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is not a state, but a federal district that serves as the capital of the USA. It has a population of about 700,000 people, which is more than Wyoming and Vermont, but less than the city of Austin. It has an area of only 68 square miles, which is less than the city of New York. It has a humid subtropical climate with hot and humid summers and cold and snowy winters. The main industry is government, but also education, media, and tourism. Washington, D.C. is also one of the most important and influential places in the world because it hosts the White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court, and many other federal buildings, monuments, and museums. Washington, D.C. is also the home of the President, the Congress, the Supreme Court, and many other politicians, diplomats, and celebrities. But it is also the home of a hidden power called the Illuminati that is said to be a secret society that controls the world's affairs and that has a sinister agenda. Washington, D.C. is a place of leadership, democracy, and culture, but also a place of conspiracy, corruption, and danger. So there you have it. These are the 7 empty states of USA and why nobody lives in them. What do you think? Do you agree with our list? Do you know any other empty states that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on the Global Adventures. Peace out.